Do you want to know something insane? In just the past year alone, I've saved 10 times more marriages than in the previous 9 years as a licensed therapist. But why? First, it is thanks to my incredible team of coaches who work tirelessly to support our clients every single day. So quick thank you to you guys. But secondly, I become more than twice as effective at saving a man's marriage when his wife wants out. And that's because I've studied obsessively on what separates the men who save their marriages from the ones who don't. And I have thousands of examples and pointing out patterns between these two men. So over the next few minutes, I'm going to reveal the exact method that can save your marriage so quickly, it feels like mind control. I'll show you how her mind works, something that you're not aware of, and how believing what she says is a surefire guarantee that you'll lose her for good. And then I'm going to show you how to change your individual pattern that has caused the marriage to fall apart. Because if you change, the whole relationship changes. But first, let me humble myself and tell you something that I can vividly remember from each couple that I could not save when I first started as a young licensed therapist. The first couple, I will label the guy as Mr. Brightside Ego. One of the first couples I ever worked with when I came to San Diego was this young, attractive couple they were together for about 6 years. They just moved in together and they're about to get married on the horizon. Now they came to see me because the previous year, things have gotten pretty bad. And when I first met them, I didn't realize how bad because I didn't know at the time as a young therapist that most couples will put on a nice face, a nice show. But the thing I did with my couples is I would first have the couple session and then I would do individuals and then back to a couple again. When I spoke with the woman first, she told me how actually over the past year, he started to get angry and we'd have these outbursts and he would actually a couple times, he broke some things around the house during these conversations and fights. So clearly evident that she was feeling very unsafe. However, when I started to speak to the guy individually, he was Mr. Optimist. He was like, oh no, yeah, but that happened, that was like a one-time thing. And like the way he was spinning it was like, it wasn't really his fault. And it was kind of a mutual problem and it's not a big deal. Like he'll move forward from it. And I took the bait, hook, line, and sinker. Because I was so focused on processing his emotions, trying to create a rapport and not challenging him in the slightest. So yeah, he started to like me. But what happened with the couple over time is they stopped seeing me and I found out eventually that they broke up. And that's because no one challenged him. And this is one of the most powerful aspects of our program, is that when a guy joins our program, he has other alumni, guys who are months, years ahead of this guy, and they're helping these new men initiate into the program by putting their feet to the fire and helping them change, because you will never change the marriage and the way she feels if you don't change yourself. And we'll get to that later on, exactly how to do that. But if I can go back, I would really challenge this guy and let him know how she feels from the things that he did, whether the intention was good or bad. Just about a couple years later, I remember I started working in a private practice by myself. I was no longer with this other practice. And I worked with this older couple. And when I first shook the guy's hand, when they came in the first time, I remember how soft his grip was and how big his smile was. Not that he was a nice guy, but the wife, I'm not like an energy reader, but that woman was rigid and terse eye contact. I mean, you could just see this like lines in her face. Not that she was old, it was just like her energy was so defensive even when I shook her hand. Her hand grip, I remember her handshake was stronger than her husband's. So clearly, who was in the masculine role here? I remember sitting there with that couple, all her eye roll was just not everything he said. She was being a contrarian about it and she just would not want to be there. She had so much resentment built up. And at the time, I couldn't but help but think, it's her. And she's the one that's upset. Look how nice he is. He's there to fix it. And I had no idea underlying what was actually happening from my therapy experience. The truth is that he wasn't leading the relationship. He didn't know how to pass her tests. He didn't know how to hold frame. He was using covert contracts. He was doing all these things that we teach guys to not do. That covert contract, nice guy, needy guy caused his wife to become masculine. She had zero respect for him over the years. This guy didn't follow his purpose. He was staying in the same job for 15 years. He wasn't growing as a man. And yes, I didn't challenge him like the first guy, but he wasn't being a leader. And I didn't give him the exact strategies. I would have sat him, if I could sit him down right now, years later, if I can go back in time, I would have him join the program, But I would teach him the feminine dynamics, how the feminine needs the masculine to show up and what that looks like, and exploring why he couldn't do that and giving him actual strategies and how to be more in his masculine core nature with his wife. Oh, the third couple. Father, do you love me? Now, usually it's reversed with the guys we work with, where the wife is more avoidant and the man is more anxious. But when I stepped into that office and I had them come in, the wife was almost shaking, almost already in tears. And the man was he wasn't even there. It's like his mind was somewhere else. And I've never seen, like this guy embodied, I don't give a damn about anything. Just completely apathetic, but he didn't want to divorce her because that went against his values. The woman was extremely anxious, was just pleading, like, give me something, show me you care. And you could tell the more she tried to pull from him, the more she tried to say, do you love me? The more he repelled, the more he felt like unsafe and like, you're smothering me. In that time, I use attachment theory, which is helpful to a degree to understand why they were having this pattern. But I didn't give them an actionable strategy and how to change that. If I can actually work with a woman, I would tell her to give the guy some damn space. Go on a trip yourself for a week, right? And I see this with the guys so much that when their wife starts to pull away or she becomes apathetic, she's a negative resentment, she just doesn't care anymore. Your little child is like, Mom, love me. Why aren't you loving me? You're leaving me. You have that abandonment wound that's just showing up. And in that first step, you need to take space. You need to let that person feel safe who's more avoidant. Okay, it's hard, but that is what you have to do. That's what I would have told her if I can go back and do that. And this transitions to the next point. How do you actually change her mind? If a guy is needy and also masculine, right, and he's logical, what's gonna happen is that when she says we're done, when she says we're over, when she says I want a divorce, all these things, as a man, you're thinking, if I said that, I would mean it. I would actually want out. If I actually was done, I would be done. And I know studies back this up, but for her, look, there are studies showing how often women can actually change their mind. In Genghis and Thornhill, they said that women's attraction preferences for traits in a partner can fluctuate based on hormonal cycles. Or in neuroplasticity and emotional processing, Cahill, in the article Why Sex Matters for Neuroscience, studies suggest women exhibit greater neuroplasticity related to emotional experiences, which may lead to quicker adjustments in values or preferences based on external stimuli or experiences. Long story short, she's more likely to change her mind. She's more likely to change her mood. And a lot of guys, when she says those things like, I want a divorce or all those things, even if she's never said it before, well, she's never said it before, so she must mean it. She meant it at the time, but it doesn't mean that she can't change her mind if you know how to change her mood. She doesn't feel safe so in that moment because a woman has higher emotional intelligence, she's gonna go through her emotions, she's gonna act congruently with them. And if she's feeling super unsafe with you, she's gonna say something in the heat of the moment without thinking about it because it feels authentic to her. But the thing is that you are going to hold on to that and you're gonna like, oh, that's the truth now. She said it, so it must be true. It's gonna activate your fear and you're gonna push her away. Thus the chasm between the two of you is gonna start to increase. This is imperative, not important, imperative for you to really grasp that I have seen hundreds of marriages saved when the wife said things like, never in a million years, I'll never have sex with you. We are done for good. Be with the other woman. I want a divorce. I'm never gonna give you a chance. I've heard it all before. Every single one of those words in the marriages that we saved. Go through the testimonial reviews channel that we have. It's down below. And you could see all those guys. I always ask the guys when I first talk to them, what actually was the catalyst that brought you to trust a random stranger on the internet to save your marriage? And you'll see all those things that they say. Yet they were able to do this next part successfully. So pay attention. Look, if you change this pattern, she will change because she will follow your lead. And every single time you show resistance or negative emotion, it's your ego holding on for dear life, trying not to let go, okay? So how do we overcome this ego and change? Well, letting go of attachment is a huge part of that, and I will show you how to do that with an amazing technique at the end of this video, but let's jump into the pattern right now. Everything starts with a belief underlying you, okay? And then an event happens in reality. You have an immediate emotional response from your subconscious brain. You create meaning or a narrative around that through your thoughts. You take action, and then you get a new result, or the result from the inherent belief, okay? So a belief is simply a deeply held conviction or an assumption about the nature of reality, ourselves, others, or the world. Beliefs they're more ingrained than thoughts and often shape how we perceive and interpret our experiences. They're built over time and often influenced by past experiences, upbringing, culture, and repeated patterns of thinking. A belief will operate at a subconscious level. It guides your actions and feelings and decisions without you necessarily being aware of it. For example, when you say things like, I want you to fill in the blanks. I am what? Money is, love is, etc. Those are your beliefs, okay? It is persistent and enduring over time. And they act like mental rules that we live by and often require significant effort or experience to change. Thoughts, on the other hand, are temporary and fleeting. Thoughts can come and go, often reflecting what's happening in the moment. And when it comes to the emotional charge, beliefs tend to carry strong emotional weight and influences how we react to situations. For example, someone with the belief, I'm unlovable, they might feel despair in relationships. Where a thought like, I forgot my keys, or I'm tired, or anything like that, it's more neutral and doesn't carry a lot of weight sometimes. Just know this, a belief equals a thought plus an emotion compounded over time. So for the events of your relationship, you have to identify the underlying beliefs that led to the results that you currently have with her. Doing this is changing your reality transurfing. So let's look at an old paradigm of this. So an unsuccessful paradigm will be, the belief may be, wife should be committed to a marriage, or my wife should be committed to the marriage. So let's say the event that happens outside of yourself is that your wife decides to give you divorce papers or leave the marriage. Your first emotion will be negativity. It'll be angry, scared, resentful, hurt, betrayed. And then what is the story you're going to create around that? Most often, if it's negative, it is more about your wife and not about you. You'll say, my wife is a cheater, my wife is this, my wife is that. You can fill in whatever blank you want. What's the actions? Oh my gosh, all the worst things that I've seen. I mean, shaming her, using your kids as ammo against her. I've seen it all before. And if you do those things, what do you think the result is going to be? So I'm going to teach you how to change each of these models, okay? From how to change your emotions, how to change your thoughts, your beliefs, all of it, and your actions. So you can take this whole entire thought pattern, this complex pattern, and change it at every variable so you can have complete and total transformation in yourself and the marriage. Now, let's start with your emotions. Now, the simple way to think of emotions is that they are energy in motion. Emotions are subconscious processes that we've evolved with to give us an automatic response in ourself physiologically to either go take action to get something through releasing dopamine or to protect ourselves with cortisol. And there's other neurotransmitters that are going on, but those are the main two that I see with stress and protection, and then growth and expansion. Now, a lot of times if you have these inherent negative beliefs, your emotions will be negative. And the way to combat that is to practice being non-reactive, to create space between you and the emotion, right? Going with your automatic default emotion, if it hasn't been serving you, you'll create the same pattern. So when those negative emotions arise, in her too, you have to, as the man, be able to calm yourself down and change the pattern, become aware of it. Now with thoughts, man, I could do a whole video, I could do a whole course on this. Just think about thoughts as your way to take these events that are happening in your life, you feel the emotion, and then you're gonna create meaning. We are creating our own meaning in this world, right? So when something happens, you get to determine what it means to you and your story and your narrative. As an example, if your wife's divorcing you or she's pulling away, the meaning you may take around that is, I'm a failure as a husband. I didn't show up well. I'm a loser. I couldn't protect the family. Am I even worth living? It's pretty bad, right? That's a story you can create. Or you can look at your thoughts and say, do I want to create a different story? Can I find examples of maybe other marriages or other men that have gone to the depths with their wife and they came out stronger? Why can't I be that way? You see how you can challenge this old narrative of being a hopeless victim who is like, I'm a failure. And you could say, you know what? How do I want to show up as a hero? If the hero in a movie was going through this, how would he show? What is the man I want to be? How do I want to respond to this difficulty? You see how asking yourself those questions and changing the narrative puts you in a position of power and the ability to take autonomy and charge, which naturally leads into the actions. I think the actions are actually the least significant. I know a lot of guys are focusing on it because you're logical and you think the actions have the most impact because it's something that you can actually do and that's what your logical brain wants. But at the end of the day, your actions are a natural byproduct of the correct software you have. Okay, if you correct your beliefs, your emotions, your thoughts, the actions will be automatic because you are becoming a man that's able to get what he wants on autopilot, right? It's not something you have to do and fabricate. If you become the man that gets her back, that high value man that she first fell in love with, no matter what you say, no matter what you do, it will be the right thing, okay? We have plenty of actions that we give these men that have worked, but hyperfixating on the individual actions to take is not coming from the right place, and it'll come off as needy, and she'll experience that. So if you correct the beliefs, the emotions, and the thoughts, what happens is that the actions will autocorrect by themselves. So let's look at this new paradigm, shall we? So instead of having the old belief, let's look at it like this. A man should be the caretaker of the marriage. Now let's give the same event to this guy. Let's say the wife decides to leave the marriage. Of course, he'll still feel scared automatically, but because he can create space now with his emotions, that fear will transform into motivation, curiosity, hopefulness, and giving himself some humility as well. And with all those emotions, he'll ask himself, who do I want to be in this? What can I positively do? What control do I have over my own actions to influence her? And by having that self-inquiry, the action he would naturally take is setting up a call with our team down below, a free call with our marriage evaluators in which you can actually get the strategy. But by the way, the action you have to take comes from a place of full commitment. So if you are fully committed to not just getting advice, but actually taking different action and getting a result with your wife, click the link down below and set up a call. And the results, well, you guys can check all the testimonies to see the results. You'll become a better man. And if the desire is not to become a better man, then you're on the wrong channel. I suggest you leave. Oh, here's the video right here that I was talking about attachment. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.